This content is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your health regimen, especially if you are currently managing a medical condition or taking medication. Somewhere around the year 1550 BC, an Egyptian physician pressed a bitter paste made from fenugreek seeds into the palm of a patient, who could no longer stop drinking water and wasting away. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest surviving medical documents in human history, recorded the treatment in careful detail. The patient improved. The physician moved on to the next case. That physician had no laboratory, no blood glucose meter, no clinical trial. What they had was thousands of years of accumulated observation, passed down through generations, of healers who watched what happened when certain plants entered the body. They watched the thirst subside. They watched the energy return. They wrote it down. Today, more than 500 million people worldwide live with type 2 diabetes. Another 350 million are pre-diabetic and don't know it. And the plants that Egyptian physician was using, along with 19 others, have been studied, tested, and confirmed by modern science to support healthy blood sugar in ways that would not have surprised a single ancient healer. This is not about replacing your doctor. This is about reclaiming knowledge your ancestors spent millennia gathering and understanding why science is now catching up to what they already knew. Let's go through all 20. The plant that scribe was writing about has been found in the burial tombs of pharaohs, mentioned in the Bible as a seasoning and a medicine, and studied in over 500 peer-reviewed papers. Fenugreek, small golden seeds with a slightly bitter, maple-adjacent flavor, contains soluble fiber called galactomannan, which slows the absorption of sugar in the intestine. A 2009 study published in the International Journal for Vitamin and Nutrition Research found that participants who consumed fenugreek seed powder showed significantly improved fasting blood glucose and insulin sensitivity compared to controls. You can add half a teaspoon of ground fenugreek to oatmeal, sprout the seeds in a jar on your windowsill, or brew the seeds as a tea. Widely available, incredibly affordable, and one of the most historically documented blood sugar support plants on the planet. Moving from Egypt to the Mediterranean, olive trees are so ancient that individual trees alive today may have been seedlings when Homer was writing the Odyssey. Most people know olive oil. Fewer people know the leaf. Olive leaf extract contains a compound called oleuropein, and research published in the journal PLOS 1 demonstrated that oleuropein may significantly improve insulin sensitivity and support healthy blood glucose levels. The mechanism appears to involve the way oleuropein stimulates the uptake of glucose into muscle tissue. Olive leaf tea is available at most health food stores. If you live in a climate that supports an olive tree, the leaves can be harvested, dried, and brewed directly. There is something quietly powerful about drinking a tea made from the same tree species that witnessed the rise and fall of Rome. From the Mediterranean, we cross into the ancient spice routes. Cinnamon is so valuable in human history that wars were fought over it. Phoenician traders guarded their supply routes with misinformation campaigns worthy of modern intelligence agencies, claiming cinnamon came from dangerous, inaccessible places to keep competitors away. What they were protecting was not just flavor. Ceylon cinnamon, the true cinnamon, distinct, from the cassia variety sold in most grocery stores, contains compounds called cinnamaldehydes and proanthocyanidins that appear to mimic insulin activity and support glucose transport into cells. A meta-analysis published in Diabetes Care reviewed multiple randomized controlled trials and found that cinnamon intake was associated with meaningful reductions in fasting blood glucose. 1 to 2 teaspoons of Ceylon cinnamon daily, added to coffee, oatmeal, or smoothies. Look specifically for Ceylon, or true cinnamon, on the label. The cassia variety contains higher coumarin levels that can be problematic in large quantities. The next plant takes us to the thorny shrubs of Central Asia and into the pages of traditional Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine. Barberry, a spiny shrub with vivid yellow inner bark, contains one of the most well-researched plant compounds for blood sugar support in the scientific literature. That compound is berberine, and the research behind it is remarkable. A landmark study published in Metabolism compared berberine directly to the pharmaceutical drug metformin in patients with type 2 diabetes and found comparable reductions in fasting blood glucose, post-meal blood glucose, and HbA1c. Comparable to a pharmaceutical. Barberry grows in temperate climates across North America, Europe, and Asia, and can be grown as a hedgerow or ornamental shrub. Berberine supplements derived from barberry are widely available. Safety note: berberine is potent and can interact with certain medications, so discuss with your healthcare provider before use, especially if you are already on blood sugar medication. Before we get to number 5, I want to flag something. We're only 5 plants in, and every single one of these has peer-reviewed research backing up what ancient healers already documented. This is not coincidence. Stick with me through number 14 especially. What ancient Chinese physicians called the sugar destroyer is something most people walk past in nature every single day without recognizing it. The 5th plant brings us to the Bible itself. In the book of Ezekiel and in Islamic prophetic medicine, the black seed, Nigella sativa, commonly called black cumin, is referenced with a reverence that borders on sacred. The Prophet Muhammad reportedly said it was a remedy for everything except death. Modern researchers have focused considerable attention on its active compound, thymoquinone, which animal and early human studies suggest may support insulin secretion from pancreatic beta cells and reduce oxidative stress involved in metabolic dysfunction. A 2019 review in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology summarized findings from multiple studies indicating potential benefits for both fasting blood sugar and insulin resistance. Black seed oil is available at most health food stores. The seeds can be added to bread, sprinkled over salads, or brewed as a tea. Slightly bitter, slightly peppery, and carrying the weight of thousands of years of human faith in its properties. Half a world away from Egypt, in the dense forests of southern India, Ayurvedic healers had a word for a plant so effective at supporting healthy blood sugar that they named it after its function. Gymnema sylvester translates roughly to sugar destroyer. The leaves, when chewed, temporarily block the sweetness receptors on the tongue. Eat a piece of sugar after chewing Gymnema and it will taste like sand, but the effect goes deeper than taste. Research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology indicates that Gymnema may support regeneration of the insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreas and may reduce sugar absorption in the intestine. Indian healers used this plant for over 2,000 years before Western science took notice. Gymnema supplements are widely available, or you can source the dried leaf for tea. For people who struggle with sugar cravings specifically, this plant's ability to blunt the reward signal of sweetness is remarkable. Turmeric needs no introduction as a flavor, but its medicinal legacy goes far deeper than golden milk lattes. In Ayurvedic medicine, turmeric has been used for over 4,000 years to address what practitioners called prameha, a category of metabolic disorders that closely maps to what we now call diabetes and pre-diabetes. The active compound, curcumin, has been studied extensively for its effects on insulin sensitivity. A study published in Diabetes Care, one of the most rigorous journals in the field, found that curcumin supplementation significantly reduced the progression from pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes in a randomized controlled trial. Critically, curcumin absorbs poorly on its own. Pairing turmeric with black pepper, which contains piperine, increases absorption by up to 2,000%. This is a combination that Ayurvedic practitioners discovered empirically, thousands of years before anyone understood the biochemistry. Grow turmeric in a pot if you live in a warm climate, or buy the root at any grocery store. From the foothills of the Himalayas and across sub-Saharan Africa, moringa trees have been called the miracle tree, not by health bloggers, but by communities that have relied on them for food and medicine for millennia. Every part of the moringa tree is used. The leaves are the most studied for blood sugar support, containing compounds called isothiocyanates that research suggests may help regulate insulin secretion and glucose uptake. A study in the journal Acta Histochemica demonstrated that moringa leaf extract significantly reduced blood glucose levels in animal models, with other early human studies suggesting similar potential. Moringa grows readily in tropical and subtropical climates and can be kept as a container plant in cooler regions. The dried leaf powder is widely available and can be added to smoothies or soups. Mild in flavor, extremely nutrient-dense, and grown in regions where pharmaceutical access is limited, meaning the communities most dependent on it have refined their knowledge of it over generations. Holy basil, called tulsi in Sanskrit, meaning the incomparable one, is so sacred in Hindu tradition that it is grown in virtually every traditional Indian household, placed near doorways, and tended as a living presence rather than merely a plant. It is offered to deities, used in ritual, and consumed daily as a preventive medicine. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition found that tulsi supplementation was associated with significant reductions in fasting blood glucose and post-meal blood glucose in human participants. The plant contains compounds including eugenol, rosmarinic acid, and various adaptogenic molecules that appear to support the body's stress response. Relevant because cortisol and chronic stress are deeply implicated in blood sugar dysregulation. Tulsi is easy to grow from seed, thrives in containers, and makes a pleasant, clove-like tea. This is a plant that asks almost nothing of you and offers a great deal in return. Korean red ginseng has been at the center of East Asian medicine for over 5,000 years. The Emperor Shennong, the mythological father of Chinese herbal medicine, documented it. Dynasties controlled its supply. Wars were fought over Korean ginseng roots. What makes it specific to blood sugar support are the ginsenosides, a class of compounds that research in the journal Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism suggests may stimulate insulin secretion, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce fasting blood glucose. A clinical trial published in Archives of Internal Medicine found that ginseng supplementation significantly improved glycated hemoglobin levels in type 2 diabetic patients. Source Korean red ginseng specifically. The processing method matters, and Korean red ginseng has the strongest research behind it. Widely available as a supplement, tea, or dried root slice. Safety note: ginseng can interact with blood thinners and certain antidepressants. Check with your provider. We're past the halfway point now, and I want to say something directly. Every single plant on this list is something your great-great-grandparents would have recognized. This knowledge was not invented by health influencers. It was gathered, tested, and passed down by people whose survival depended on getting it right. We are not discovering something new. We are remembering something old. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in Mexico in the 16th century, they documented something that stopped their physicians cold. Entire communities eating diets centered around a spiny, alien-looking cactus paddle with virtually no evidence of the metabolic devastation the Europeans associated with sugar sickness. That cactus was nopal, the prickly pear, and it remains a dietary staple across Mexico and the American Southwest today. The pads contain soluble fiber, pectin, and compounds called mucilages that slow glucose absorption from the digestive tract. Clinical studies have demonstrated that nopal consumption before a carbohydrate-heavy meal can blunt the post-meal blood sugar spike significantly. Nopal pads are sold in most Latin grocery stores, can be grilled, added to eggs, or eaten raw in salads. The flavor is mild, slightly citrusy. This is not an exotic health supplement. It is food, eaten daily by millions, doing what ancestral food was always supposed to do. American ginseng, distinct from its Asian cousin, was used extensively by numerous Native American nations, the Cherokee, the Iroquois, the Ojibwe, for a range of conditions, including what healers described as excessive thirst and weakness. Modern analysis suggests these descriptions align with diabetic symptoms. Researchers at the University of Toronto found that American ginseng supplementation taken before meals significantly reduced post-meal blood glucose in both diabetic and non-diabetic participants. American ginseng grows wild in eastern North American forests and can be cultivated under shade cloth in woodland garden settings. It is slower growing and more expensive than Korean varieties, but its specific effect on post-meal glucose makes it particularly interesting for people managing post-meal spikes. Yarrow, the feathery, flat-topped wildflower that grows along roadsides and meadows across the entire northern hemisphere, was carried into battle by Achilles, according to legend, as a wound healer. Medieval herbalists called it soldier's woundwort. What fewer people know is that yarrow contains flavonoids and sesquiterpene lactones that traditional European and Native American healers used specifically for digestive and metabolic complaints. Recent research has indicated potential for yarrow extracts in supporting healthy blood sugar regulation, with a 2017 study in the journal Phytotherapy Research identifying specific mechanisms involving glucose metabolism pathways. Yarrow is one of the easiest wild plants to identify and harvest. It grows freely in almost any climate zone and makes a pleasantly bitter, aromatic tea. If you walk outside and there is a meadow within a mile of you, there is almost certainly yarrow within it. Jerusalem artichoke is neither from Jerusalem nor an artichoke. It is a sunflower relative native to North America that produces knobby tubers, and the name appears to be a linguistic corruption of the Italian girasole, meaning sunflower. Native American communities across the Great Plains cultivated and consumed it extensively. The reason it matters for blood sugar is a carbohydrate called inulin, a prebiotic fiber that the human body cannot convert to glucose, meaning it passes through the digestive tract feeding beneficial gut bacteria rather than spiking blood sugar. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition has confirmed that inulin from Jerusalem artichoke has measurable positive effects on gut microbiota composition and glucose metabolism. Jerusalem artichoke grows with almost aggressive enthusiasm. Plant one tuber, and you will have more than you need within a single season. Roast them, add them to soups, or eat them raw. One caution, they earn the nickname fartichoke honestly. Introduce them slowly. Now we enter the territory that most herbalists keep close to their chest. Plants so regionally specific, so buried in traditional practice, that modern health culture almost lost them entirely. Galega officinalis, goat's rue, is a plant that most people have never heard of, but it has a direct and documented connection to modern diabetes pharmacology that should give anyone pause. Medieval European herbalists used goat's rue for what they called the sweet urine disease. When 20th century scientists began studying the plant, they isolated a compound called galagine, which led directly to the synthesis of metformin, currently the most widely prescribed diabetes drug in the world. The plant itself, in traditional preparations, has demonstrated blood sugar supporting properties in early research. It is a tall, somewhat weedy perennial that grows readily in temperate gardens and produces purple-blue flowers. Note: goat's rue is not recommended during pregnancy and should not be combined with existing diabetes medications without medical supervision. But understanding that the most prescribed diabetes drug in the world was derived from a medieval folk remedy puts the entire conversation about ancestral plant wisdom in a different frame. White mulberry leaf has a history that stretches from ancient China through the Silk Road and into medieval Europe. The silk trade required mulberry trees. Every silk producer cultivated them. But silk farmers and traditional Chinese physicians also knew that the leaves contained something useful for what they called jiao-ke, the wasting and thirsting disease. The compound that has attracted modern attention is DNJ, or 1-deoxynogeromycin, which inhibits the enzyme alpha-glucosidase, the same mechanism targeted by the pharmaceutical drug acarbose. By slowing the breakdown of complex carbohydrates in the intestine, mulberry leaf extract may significantly blunt post-meal blood sugar spikes. A study published in Diabetes Care found mulberry leaf extract comparable in effect to acarbose for post-meal glucose management. Mulberry trees grow freely across North America, Europe, and Asia. The leaf tea is gentle, slightly sweet, and widely available as a supplement. Banaba leaf comes from the Philippines and Southeast Asia, where the tree has been used in traditional medicine for generations to address the same constellation of symptoms: thirst, fatigue, frequent urination, that we now associate with blood sugar dysregulation. The active compound, corosolic acid, has been studied for its ability to stimulate glucose transport into cells. Research published in Diabetes Research and Clinical Practice found that banaba leaf extract significantly reduced blood glucose in participants with type 2 diabetes. The traditional preparation was simple. Dry the leaves and brew them as a tea. Banaba supplements are increasingly available at health food stores, and the leaf tea can be sourced from Southeast Asian grocery stores. If you live in a tropical climate, Banaba is a beautiful ornamental tree that you can grow yourself. Devil's Club is a plant that demands respect, literally. The thorns on its stems and leaves are formidable, enough that only an experienced harvester should handle it. Indigenous nations of the Pacific Northwest, the Haida, the Tlingit, the Coast Salish, considered it one of the most sacred and powerful medicinal plants in their pharmacopoeia. It was used for everything from infection to pain, to metabolic complaints described as wasting diseases. The inner bark of Devil's Club root contains compounds closely related to the ginsenosides found in Asian ginseng, and early research suggests similar potential for supporting insulin sensitivity and blood glucose regulation. It grows in the dense, wet forests of the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, and is not easily cultivated. The most responsible way to source it is through ethical, wild-harvested suppliers who work in relationship with indigenous communities. This is a plant that asks you to come to it carefully. The 20th plant completes a circle that started with that Egyptian physician 4,000 years ago. Bitter melon, Momordica charantia, is perhaps the most widely used blood sugar support plant in the world today, consumed as a vegetable and medicine across Southeast Asia, India, East Africa, and the Caribbean. Its compounds, charantin, polypeptide P, and vicine, have multiple mechanisms of action, including stimulating insulin secretion, improving cellular insulin sensitivity, and inhibiting glucose absorption in the intestine. A review in the journal Chemistry and Biology found that bitter melon demonstrated insulin-like activity in multiple tissue types. Traditional healers across at least 4 distinct continents independently arrived at the same conclusion about this plant. That is not coincidence. That is data, gathered over generations, across cultures, without a shared language, pointing at the same truth. Bitter melon is sold fresh in most Asian and Caribbean grocery stores. It can be juiced, stir-fried, or taken as a supplement. The flavor is intensely bitter, and some people blend the juice with apple or lime to make it palatable. It grows readily in warm climates as a vigorous vine. Safety note: not recommended during pregnancy. Use cautiously if already on blood sugar medication, as the combined effect can be significant. 20 plants, thousands of years of human observation. Cultures separated by oceans, languages, and centuries arriving at overlapping answers. And a body that, given the right support, already knows what to do. What strikes me every time I sit with this material is how much knowledge was encoded not in libraries, not in institutions, but in kitchens, gardens, and the memory of grandmothers. In bitter pastes pressed into palms. In the daily tea, an Indian family brews because their grandmother brewed it, and her grandmother before her. This knowledge survived not because it was written down, but because it worked. You do not have to implement all 20 of these at once. Pick 2 or 3 that are most accessible to you, that fit your climate, your budget, your daily rhythm. Fenugreek in your morning oatmeal, Ceylon cinnamon in your coffee, a pot of holy basil on your windowsill, mulberry leaf tea in the afternoon. Small, consistent, ancestral. That is how this kind of medicine was always meant to work. Woven into life, not added on top of it. If this gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs it. The goal of this channel has always been the same: to put this knowledge back where it belongs, in your hands. Take good care of your body. It is the only land you will ever truly own.